We're going to call to order the Narragansett Town Council regular meeting. Today is March 20th, 2023. The time is 7:04. At this time, I would like to call one of our regulars is back today, Mr. Stanley Wojciechowski, and I would like to call him up to the podium to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge your allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, liberty and justice for all. Welcome back, Mr. Wojciechowski and Mary, his wife. So next we'll move on to approval of the minutes. We have the February 21st, 2023 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next is approval of minutes of the February 21st, 2023 executive session meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next is approval of the March 6, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next up, we have for announcements, we have the town manager's update. Mr. Tierney.
Good evening, members of the council and the public at home and here. Welcome back, Stanley. It's good to see you. Stanley paid a few visits while he was out. This evening, I'll start off with a light note. Iceman, who is a bull from Sunset Farm that was raised as a calf by Ethan and Jeff and Sue Farrell. He was a fixture at the farm, known to many that visited the farm, both adults and children, and quite a ham for getting into photographs. Lived a full life and as a family pet, and he has since left us. And a lot of people are familiar with Iceman. On more business-related matters, on the foreign-related ordinance, we have 5 appeals that will be heard before the Zoning Board of Appeals this coming Thursday, March 23rd. In anticipation of the appeals being upheld, we're scheduling a tentative municipal court date of Thursday, April 6th for the enforcement of those violations in municipal court. Of course, it is contingent on the result of the appeal, but we feel confident that we'll prevail in that. The Town Council has retained Michael DeSisto of DeSisto Law back on January 3rd to litigate the 4 unrelated cases pending in Washington Superior Court and the matters that are appearing before the Zoning Board on Thursday. That meeting will be live streamed. We'll have the link available online shortly. The kayak concession Narrow River. The town received no responses to the last advertisement for the concession down on Narrow River. It isn't the first time that we've received no responses to an advertisement. Most recently happened with the housing study, which we re-advertised, we widened the net to potential interested parties. I met with Michelle, and we plan to do that again. Re-advertise and place the ad and add the Providence Journal to it, in addition to the Narragansett Times, the Independent, and the town's website, in an effort to widen the net to attract some responses. The town will also notify other vendors of the opportunity. The RFP, keep in mind that the RFP for bids is not an award. The Town Council ultimately selects the vendor based on the responses and the facts that are supplied by the staff. We'll keep you up to date on that. An update on the Lighthouse Inn in Galilee. PRI 10 appealed the demolition order that was issued by the town on March 9th. The matter now goes before the state's Building Standards Committee. The date is to be determined. Our building official is the chair of that committee, and as such, he will have to recuse himself from that meeting. As soon as the dates are available, we will notify the public and the council. a gentleman in our community, Colonel Gerald Dillon. He's a 30-year retired active U.S. Army. He passed away at the beginning of March. He was a decorated veteran with over 30 years of active military service. And in the true spirit of community service, Colonel Dillon continued his service after retirement as an advocate for veterans, and he mentored PC, ROTC cadets for years. So God bless America, and thank you, Colonel Dillon. And on a very positive note, traditionally we celebrate the first day of spring on March 21st. But this year, because of the spring equinox, which I will not go into detail on, it falls today. So we're looking at better weather and more sunshine for all of us. And that's about it, folks.
Thank you for the updates. So next on the agenda, we have the Community Choice Electricity presentation. However, Jamie Rhodes is not here yet. He's running a little late. So we're just going to continue on with our meeting, and we'll get back to that part of the agenda when he arrives. So moving on to the next part of the agenda is the open forum public comment. I'm just going to state that open forum public comment is a time for any member of the public to speak on a topic not on the meeting agenda. A sign-in sheet is available to members of the public who wish to speak during open forum public comment and is located at the table at the back of the council chambers. Speakers will be called in the order as they appear on the sign-in sheet. Before open forum public comment is closed, members of the public who did not sign up will be given the chance to speak. Speaking in a meeting during open forum public comment is limited to 3 minutes. Speakers are required to state their name and address before speaking and are expected to conduct themselves in an orderly and respectful fashion. The comments of citizens accessing this portion of the meeting are neither adopted nor endorsed by the body, but heard as requested. So with that being said, Mr. Tierney, do you have the sign-up sheet?
The first speaker is Thomas Mann.
I just wanted to wish
Could
council.
you
Oh, sorry.
State your name and address.
Thomas Mann, 65 Oak Hill Road. I just wanted to wish Council President Jaworzinski a very happy birthday. Today is her 50th birthday. And I also wanted to, I also wanted to say I think you're doing a great job on the council. Watching you in action, I know how difficult it can be to deal with challenging issues and concerns from such a diverse constituency. Your service to the community has inspired me to be more engaged and pay attention to local issues affecting our town, and has even inspired me to serve in ways on the committees and boards that we have in the town. And I think also watching you in action gives me a great appreciation for all of our elected leaders who have to put so much selfless time into serving the community. So thank you, and happy 50th birthday.
Thank you.
No song, Thomas? You have a beautiful voice, no? Okay.
Anyone else on the list, Mr. Tierney? Anybody?
Ladies and gentlemen, Stanley Wojciechowski.
Thank you for letting me participate in government. I really missed it. I really want to thank everyone for the cards, the calls, even food that I received. It was really a sign of love. It was a showing of love from my perspective. There is love in this town, and it's such a fantastic thing. You don't realize it until you experience. And following the hospital stay, the first mass I went to, the Monsignor says, love thy neighbor, love thy neighbor. And he said it about 10 times, love thy neighbor. And it took him about 4 or 5 times before I started counting. You know, this guy is really pushing on love thy neighbor. So I looked at that and I says, I want to make sure, just thinking about it, and it brought to mind the three-student discrimination law. 3 students, can only have 3 students. And the fact that we can only have 3 students is discrimination. It seems that that situation actually, it's action that emboldens some, to come on and display not a love for students, whether it's tenants, whether it's a love, not a love for anyone. So I would really respectfully ask that you really do away with any consideration on a 3-student ordinance, as it discriminates, and it indicates a lack of love for one sector of our community. And I think there's no place for that. And under God, Monsignor Halloran, he's the one, love your neighbor, love your neighbor. So that's a direction under God. So you are committed under God not to discriminate against anyone. Thank you, and love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Anyone else signed up?
Karen Shabshalowitz.
Karen Shabshalowitz, 63 Wanda Street. And Jim, my 77th birthday was the beginning of this month. I didn't hear it from me, and you welcome Stanley back, but what about me? All right, so I will skip ahead. I brought some visual aids because they are worth 1,000 words each. So let me begin with this. The picture of my 2 oldest granddaughters reading books. They are now, one is a sophomore at Stanford, accepted early decision, president of her class at Hanover High School in New Hampshire, valedictorian and presidential scholar, won the Phi Beta Kappa Award, won the Soccer Girls Award and the Ice Hockey Girls Award from Hanover High School. I mention that because her mother, Sarah, was a 1991 graduate of Narragansett High School. She was president of the National Honor Society, and Sarah went on to Tufts and gave the commencement address for the class of 1995 because she was a Wendell Phillips Public Service Award winner. Wendell Phillips was an abolitionist of slavery and a public speaker. So Sarah got that award and gave the commencement address. The other one is Sophie Cox, who writes for the Duke Research blog. She is a sophomore at Duke University in North Carolina, majoring in nature studies. She always loved nature. I mention that because her mother was valedictorian of the class of '89 and a U.S. presidential scholar, the only one Narragansett has ever had. This is Rachel graduating from Princeton, the second child from Narragansett to go to Princeton. All right, now the reason I have these 2 up here is I'm now working on my 9th grandchild. I'm older than I guess most of you, but none of my children live in town. 5 of them live out of state. I brought the elephant because I don't want you to forget. The elephant is a symbol of good fortune in the Indian culture. My youngest son, Josh, who was graduate of 2001 at Narragansett and is a manager at Google in Manhattan, is marrying someone from the Indian culture. She grew up in the United States, but she is brown-skinned, so she's a minority. Dr. Singh was the author of this book. He wrote about heart surgery and his struggles to accomplish what he did. He had dyslexia, and he's a very famous heart surgeon that shared a lot of his personal struggles when he came to speak at the Narragansett Library. There was waiting room only. This one...
Ms. Shepshelitz, you're at the 3-minute mark. You can finish up your comments.
All right, my comment is, throughout my life, I've been a strong advocate for public libraries for various reasons. During the last year-long, the public library has become a life-saving importance to my family. You see, my 7th grandson is a sweet 8-year-old boy who had something funny happening to his eyes. They went from doctor to doctor, and none of the doctors knew what it was. They kept saying to Aaron, it's very, very, very bad, but we don't know what it is. His eyes were sort of jingling around his head. So they went from doctor to doctor, and finally, they found a doctor in Philadelphia. They live in Asheville, North Carolina. Now, Aaron had gone through the special ed wars in Narragansett. I mean, wars. They discriminated against him. The Office of Civil Rights came in, U.S. Department of Ed. Superintendent threatened to sue me. Special ed director threatened to
Ms.
sue me.
Shepshelitz, I'll give you 15
All right.
more seconds.
Well, my point is, Eva, because I think what you 3 did was unethical. It might not have been illegal, but I think it is unethical. And I am going to be heard because I am a member of this democracy. And I am going to speak for myself. I would like the Narragansett Library to be named in the new building the Narragansett Free Library or the Narragansett Library. This is a chance for a new beginning. This is a chance where people can go to the library and have a new beginning and find out about many things in their lives. So even though you might be concerned over the 3 to 4 or the 2 to 3, I have family members that can't even afford to come back to Narragansett because the price of housing has gone crazy, and you're more concerned with the students that are coming out of URI and supplying them with houses to live in than you are with families returning to Narragansett.
Thank you, Ms. Shepshelitz.
So you better look at what you promised when you ran for office and
Thank you.
think about what your legacy is going to be.
Thank you. So I just noticed that Mr. Jamie Rose has arrived for the Community Choice Electricity presentation. However, at 7:30 we have to start our, we have to just go to public hearing. So I'm just going to give it 5 more minutes. We're just going to move on. And do we have any other speakers that are signed up?
Marianne Cronley, is it?
Hi, I'm Marianne Cronley, 82 Harbor Island Road. And one of the challenges that communities face when addressing water quality, flooding, and other climate change impacts is identifying funding mechanisms to support their projects. There are currently unprecedented funding available for this work for water quality and climate resilience projects in the form of many different organizations with grants available. And I wonder if the town has applied for any of these, if they're aware of any of these.
This isn't a question and answer. You can just speak your thoughts, and then
Okay.
we did receive emails from you, but just it's more of like you to be able to speak your mind,
Okay.
and then we'll.
Okay, well, I hope that the town is looking into these. Let me say that, okay? And then I have one other, since I still have 2 minutes left. I walk the trail between the Westmoreland facility and Kinney Avenue, the Crooked Brook Trail, and there is a rusted car body on the side of that trail. Could something be done in honor of Earth Day or something to get that rusted car body off the trail? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Oh, Mr. Tierney.
That is the last speaker on the list. And Ms. Cronley, I'm going to step back and see you in a minute.
Okay, so we'll move on to just the consent agenda. We have a few more minutes. Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Any of the agenda items from the council members? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next on the agenda, we have for Information Technology Department, we have a motion to approve the renewal purchase of Cisco Duo services for information technology with Zones LLC in the amount of $20,250, utilizing the NCPA contract. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council? Questions? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next on the agenda from the Fire Department is a motion to approve the purchase of one Volanti Plan Review Table for fire prevention from Volanti Displays in the amount of $10,297.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next on the agenda is from the Parks and Recreation Department is a motion to approve the purchase and installation of one new playground structure for Leroy Thompson Memorial Park from M.E. O'Brien and Sons Incorporated in the amount of $49,700.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Anyone from the public?
Really popular motion. So thank you, Michelle, for getting this one done. I know there are a lot of families looking forward to it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next from the Parks and Recreation Department is a motion to approve the residential lease as per attached for the caretaker's residence at 95 East Middlebridge Road for a 5-year term beginning April 2023 through March 31st, 2027.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council?
Go ahead.
Councilor Kopek?
I just wanted to say that, you know, everybody who knows Matt Eddy and knows the work that he does is really, I mean, he's excellent at what he does. He's responsive, he's helpful, and I firmly believe that this is a great idea.
Councilor
Yeah,
Lawler?
I also have some comments. I was on the council when we bought the property, and Matt Eddy was his first year as caretaker. And when we get Matt, we also have Monica. And I've received phone calls over the years where boaters are out stranded in Narrow River, and she's gone out in her boat and rescued them. And I know the URI crew team can't speak enough about the work that Matt helps with them getting in and out. So we're so grateful that you're caring for the property that was once your family's property, and we appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. So at this time, we're going to move to the public hearing portion of the meeting. It is, well, 7:28, but it's we'll say 7:30. It is a motion to schedule a showcase hearing for the Class B victualler liquor license held by Ralph Yagzit's doing business as The Tavern, located at 140 Point Judith Road, Unit 5. And the date for scheduling is recommended for April 3rd at our next scheduled meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council?
Question.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd like to just know a little bit more reasons why for the show cause hearing, if it's possible.
Okay. That would be coming from Chief. Mr. Tierney, would you like to speak on that?
It was a series of documented violations, and it's the administrative procedure to address the license. And it's basically an open hearing with all the evidence revealed during the hearing.
Thank you, Jim.
Any other questions from the council members? So this, again, this is a motion to schedule. Is there any comment on the motion to schedule? Not on the hearing itself, but this is, again, this is only a motion to schedule. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 4-0. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to call, we're going to go back to the presentations part of the meeting, and this presentation is going to be given by Jamie Rhodes of Good Energy, and it's going to be about the Community Choice Electricity Program.
There we go. Sorry. I wasn't sure. Do you have this? Got it. Sorry, just making sure I know who's got the slides and everything. Madam President, members of the council, thank you again for the opportunity to come before you and have a conversation about where we're at in the development and launch of the Community Choice Electricity Program. Excuse me. I apologize for being here a little bit late. We just had two back-to-back meetings, one with the Providence Sustainability Commission and one in one of their council ward meetings. So I got down as quick as I could, but I also didn't realize that Route 10 was under that type of construction in Providence and took a wrong way. I ended up in Olneyville, and here we are.
We all do.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to walk through just a couple slides to remind folks about the program, a little bit about how we developed it, and kind of where we're at with it at the moment. I know a lot of folks, both in the public as well as yourselves, have probably received the letters about the impending launch of the program in May. And I know we had a public hearing or a community meeting last Wednesday that was quite well attended at the community center. It's even on YouTube, so I got to share with my mother what it looks like to me stand in front of a room of folks, and she was very proud. So, but I want to take the opportunity here just to talk a little bit about, there we go. So as a reminder, the purpose of the program, why we sought to do this, is that it's really a twofold piece. I mean, the first one is to bring in lower electricity prices, and the second piece was to take action on climate. Taking action on climate is a really broad goal. In this particular place, what we were able to do is secure an electricity supply with more renewables and to continue to seek to phase out the use of fossil fuels in our electricity supply. So those are the purpose. There are 7 communities that are working together to launch these programs in May. It's Central Falls, Providence, Barrington, South Kingstown, Narragansett, Newport, and Portsmouth. The idea behind this is that the more individuals that the aggregation programs are working with, the greater our buying power and ability to negotiate with suppliers in order to secure better rates for program participants. Since about 30 years ago, folks have been free to choose whoever they wanted for an electricity supplier. That began with the electricity deregulation, and so while Rhode Island Energy is still the utility to deliver electricity, they own the poles, the wires, the substations, and all the infrastructure for it. The choice is every individual consumer has a choice of who they actually contract with to supply that electricity. And one of the things that we've seen in the competitive market for electricity is that us as individual users have no power. We don't use enough for any electricity supplier to particularly care about the same things we care about, such as consumer protection or not having opt-out fees or not having rates that balloon after 6 months. These sort of consumer protections are not in place in the competitive market. But what Good Energy in our experience has been is that when you're able to pull together that buying power, we're able to level the playing field with electricity suppliers and actually engage in them in the conversation around what should our electricity supply look like, as well as how can you give us the best deal? Because at that point, you get suppliers that want our business. They want to serve us. One of us, they can give or take. But when you start talking about with 7 communities, about 120,000 accounts, the eyes perk up, the pencils get sharpened, and they're able to look at what is a rate that we can provide them that will bring their business to us. So once again, the supply is what we get to choose. The delivery is still Rhode Island Energy, and the billing is still all through Rhode Island Energy as well. So the consumer experience is designed to not change significantly. So once again, with the participant experience, the first thing first is that it's voluntary participation. Nobody has to participate in the program. There is automatic enrollment. The automatic enrollment is for eligible customers, which means that anybody that currently takes last resort service from Rhode Island Energy, meaning that you called them when they were National Grid or Rhode Island Energy and said, I'd like to open an electricity account. And they go, great, we're gonna come out, we're gonna turn that on for you. You are then on Rhode Island Energy's last resort service. You didn't make a choice, one was made for you as far as what service that would be. The idea here is to change that so that the automatic choice is the program created by the town rather than what the utility has created for the entire state. There's no penalty to leave the program. So once again, it's completely voluntary. You can leave the program before it ever starts in May. You can leave the program in June, July, August, anywhere through for the duration of the program. At no time is there a fee to leave, as well as there's no time is there a fee to go back to Rhode Island Energy or any cost to come back into the program should you desire to do so. That is one of the biggest consumer protection pieces we're able to do, which is let people make their choice without having these financial barriers in the way. Anybody that's actually gone out to the market and said, maybe I don't want what Rhode Island Energy has, and they've gone out and chosen their own supplier, maybe an Ambit Energy is one that I know is up on the Empower Rhode Island website making offers. If you've selected your own supplier, you will not be enrolled in the program either. Once again, you've gone out, you've moved off the default, you've made an active choice. The program's not going to overrule that. It's only for those that have not made a choice as far as their supply goes. As I mentioned, Rhode Island Energy continues to handle all the billing. So we'll continue to receive a single bill from Rhode Island Energy for participants in the program. You'll continue to pay Rhode Island Energy a single bill. So that has not changed. Rhode Island Energy is still responsible for the maintenance of its wires, of its poles. That is their legal obligation to do so. It's also where they make 100% of their profit and revenue. And so that if there's outages or billing issues, those all still go through Rhode Island Energy. And just to take this is a question we get frequently. Rhode Island Energy has no opposition to the program. They don't treat customers on supply versus their own supply customers any differently. There's been no history of that. There's been no claims of that for anywhere there's been aggregation programs across the country, that the utility continues to do its duty to supply, to provide for the delivery of electricity. For anybody that's got net metering, so you've got solar panels up on your house, you get direct payments from the utility or you get bill credits, those programs stay in place. What this does is it changes what for the electricity that you need that's not being generated by your own facilities. This is the price that you now get for the electricity that you still need to purchase. And the same thing for the low and moderate income discounts. So somebody participating in the LIHEAP program, or they've qualified because of their eligibility for SNAP benefits or other federal or state programs, those full bill discounts still apply as well across the board. So one of the questions that we consistently get is like, this is an opt-out program. Why is it opt-out versus opt-in? And the number one reason is that this is what gives suppliers the surety of how many people are going to participate. That if they're going to give us competitive rates, they need to know who are they supplying and how much electricity are they supplying. By making it an opt-out program, we have stability and consistency when the suppliers go out to purchase electricity, that they know how much they need to get. If they didn't know, they add margins on top of it. That the price goes up, the less surety that they have of the amount of supply they need to deliver, then the more risk premium they put on the price. So opt-in programs have been available for 30 years and none have launched because they can't get competitive rates. Opt-out programs have been around in Massachusetts for starting in 2015, so 9 years at this point. That was some rough math there. And what we've seen through the reports that have been done by the Attorney General at the time, as well as utility reports, is that the aggregation programs have consistently delivered lower rates through the process. And that is entirely because of the ability to negotiate with suppliers that comes from that opt-out program. So just to jump in here, and you know what, I apologize. I did not update this slide since I sent it to Mike last week. So this number on the left, the 9761, that is the initial rate that Rhode Island Energy filed in January. Since January, they have filed 2 subsequent items with the Public Utilities Commission, and that number is now 10.35 or 341. I'm going to double check that at the website, 10341, if I've got my memory on here. The reason for that change, that increase for them, is that they had to refile their administrative cost factor that adds into the rate, as well as they had to refile the renewable energy cost factor that goes into the rate. And one thing to know is that Rhode Island Energy is not allowed to make a single dime on supply, which is why they have to file a rate, then they have to file updated pieces, they have to answer questions from the PUC, and then the rate will be final. March 27th is when they're scheduling to have their public hearing, or their open meeting to approve that rate. So while the Rhode Island Energy rate has gone from 9.761 to 10.3, I'll just, I will kind of round the numbers to that point. The default product in the Narragansett program is 9.361 cents. So that equates to roughly a 10% savings on electricity supply. I was just asked a question earlier, so for an average customer, average homeowner, what type of savings are we looking at? And it's about $5 to $7 per month for the electricity supply portion of their bill. With that additional cost comes 5% more renewable energy than the state minimum. The state minimum right now is 23%, so the Rhode Island Energy product as well as the basic product both have 23% of that electricity comes from renewable sources. The standard product in the Narragansett program will have 28% of renewable energy coming from, or of its electricity coming from renewable sources. There's also a Green 50 and a Green 100 product. That means 50% of the electricity in that program, or in that product will come from renewable sources, and the 100 is 100% of the electricity will come from renewable sources. So everything above that 23% mandatory level is coming from a local nonprofit organization called Green Energy Consumers Alliance. They source the RECs from local projects. We have a map happy to send along. It comes from the landfill out in Johnston, a landfill out in Johnston, not the landfill out in Johnston. One in East Providence that's been capped with solar panels on it, turbines in Providence. There's a solar field out in West Greenwich. These are the sources of where we're procuring the electricity, or the renewable electricity from, that goes above the state minimum. The price for this is, the price that we have is going from the May launch until November 2023. That's a 6-month rate period. Just like Rhode Island Energy has 2 6-month rate periods, we are launching this program with a similar structure in order to match what Rhode Island Energy is doing. But also one of the directions we were given in launching the program is a desire to reach more stable, longer-term rates. Initially, a longer-term rate would not be a great deal. We would not be able to necessarily save money against Rhode Island Energy to begin with, though we are continually in that conversation with NextEra, our electricity supplier, to see what it will take for us to get to longer-term rates that we know will have value. But at the moment, the electricity market is a little volatile, and setting a 12-month rate was too risky, not knowing what Rhode Island Energy is going to be doing 6 months from now. And so as mentioned, that the program is launching in May 2023. So a lot of the before this point, before about mid-February when we had rates, it was all still hypothetical. And while we've presented here to the council, we had public hearings on this, same thing at the PUC, that the question has come was like, why didn't we tell everybody about this sooner? And it was like, as soon as we had the rates, we told you what they were. And that's the moment where people get to know, like, okay, I have a decision in front of me now. Do I want to opt out and go back to Rhode Island Energy, or do I want to accept the price? And as soon as we had the price, we printed it on the letters and we mailed them out so folks would know more than 30 days in advance of that period. There was a little, I should have seen this coming, but the mail did not deliver entirely on time. So the date that's on the letter says April 3rd. We're extending that a week to April 8th, or 5 business days to April 8th in order to accommodate the fact that some of the letters didn't arrive quite on time. But we want to make sure everybody has the full 30 days in order to opt out before the program starts. So we've done the postcard. Folks have received the letters. This has definitely been in the press. We've had articles in the Providence Business News, the Providence Journal. I just did an interview this morning with somebody at the South Kingstown Independent and the Narragansett Times. I expect an article coming up tomorrow as well in the local paper about it. We've been placing ads in the paper to remind folks, hey, check out the website, see what the rates are, here are the public hearings. We really want to get the notice out there that this is happening as soon as we had the information in front of folks to make a decision. We continue to do these in-person meetings. I know we'll be back at the community center next Wednesday for any folks that weren't able to make last week, couldn't attend the council tonight. We'll be back once again at the community center at 6 o'clock next Wednesday. and I'll stay until everybody's questions are answered. Once again, I can't guarantee you'll like the answers, but I'll guarantee to give you accurate and honest information about it. Just a couple pieces to notice of awareness is like because of the history of competitive supply, people having their doors knocked on, getting letters in the mail like, wouldn't you like to save some money on electricity? We understand why a first reaction of somebody is like, is this a scam? We've seen stuff like this before. What's the deal here? We recognize that that is an initial perspective that folks could have. We've sought to address that by putting the town seal on it. We put the call center together. We've sought to inform administration staff that the program is launching to let people know, like, no, this is not a scam. This is a real program. This is approved by the town and the town council. Direct program, if anybody has calls or has questions about it, we did set up a Rhode Island specific call center. We've had pretty good volume of calls from, at the beginning of last week of 500 a day across the state. At the end of last week, it was down to about 150 to 200. So we know that when the letters landed a week and a half ago, it generated the interest. We got the calls. Most of the calls are people just seeking a little bit more information, trying to understand, hey, I do have these solar panels. Can you just double check that nothing's going to be changed there? And we're seeing of all the calls we're receiving, we're seeing about maybe 10% of the folks are actually trying to opt out, which is easily taken care of. But more than that, we're seeing about 20-25% seeking just change the product that they're enrolling in. So that phone number is specific for calling NextEra about the program. Anybody who wants to opt out, with the letter, they did receive an opt-out card with their account information pre-filled, so all I have to do is sign it with a prepaid envelope. They can mail it directly back. Once again, the phone number, somebody can opt out, and we also are not monitoring. We've hosted a website, narragansettcommunitychoiceelectricity.com. At that site, anybody can they can put in a request to change the product, to opt out. There's also a support email that goes directly to our company, Good Energy, to respond to, not to NextEra. So if somebody has questions there, they'll come directly to our staff, and then we'll be able to respond to them. But the idea, once again, is to provide information to everybody that's seeking it about the program. Well, I'll leave it there. So at this point, I'm wanted to remind everybody that, that's really the end of the presentation. That's about the information that I've got. Happy to take any questions that folks would have about it.
Sure. Anyone from the council have any questions? Councilor Lawler?
Yes. Hi, I was not on the council last year when the decision was made by this body. And I have to let you know, I received a lot of phone calls. I watched the South Kingstown town meeting, and I know they said the same to your associate who was there. My phone did light up, and I must say, I have to agree with the majority of the people who called. They were really upset that a choice had been made for them, that they have to opt out. And I've been talking to the council president for this for months now. We don't have public access TV, so a lot of our population are older population, and they're not live streaming right now. And we used to have our newspaper twice a week. Now it's once a week, and they tend not to get all of the information. So my gut from everyone speaking to me over the last couple of weeks was they were surprised by this. They hadn't heard about it, and they weren't happy a choice was made for them. And I feel it's nothing about the program itself, it's just how it went in the communication for it. Only 7 communities out of the 39 cities and towns did this, and I have a feeling it was because of that. Because I do agree that government should not be making a choice for any resident about what service they should use. Whether it's a telephone service or the electric service, it shouldn't have been made. That being said, the other amount of calls that were coming in were regarding the NextEra itself and a lot of the political contributions that they're making. If you compare that to our current Rhode Island Energy, in about the same period of time, it was about $200,000, and it was across the board contributions. So politically, there are a lot of folks that called me from this town that were not happy about that choice. I understand that's not your contract, you are Good Energy, but it's the town, the town council president from last town that signed a contract with NextEra, and a lot of the people that spoke to me were not happy with that. Having said that, I'm glad that you went through the opt-out. I'm interested in people know how to do that. I had a lot of folks saying, I want to wait and see how the program goes, give it 6 months and see how it goes. I'm very happy with the service I currently have. I think choice is great. I think the fact that the council has found another choice is wonderful to offer, but the fact that people have to opt out, I can't disagree with that more than I do. But my question for you, if the 7 towns and communities that did sign up, if they do have a significant amount of individuals from their residents that have opted out, what happens then? If you don't have the customer base that you think you have for the amount you now have, what will happen 6 months from now?
Yeah, so the price that's there, well, not there, but the price that was up there is set for this rate period. So
Right.
it's not going to change. 100% of the people opt out, the rate's still the same, or 99 for the 1% that stays in. What happens for the future rate periods is that lets NextEra know that when they're going to procure electricity, they have even more certainty. So if 20% opt out and we have 80%, then we know we are now bidding out for 80% of the load. So what happens is that it actually becomes more accurate, our procurement strategy from that point on.
But wouldn't it make sense then that the price would actually go up if they don't have as many customers?
Well, we're already with the 7 communities, it's almost like there's a series of plateaus. You need to get over the certain amount in order for the suppliers to take you seriously. And each community that we're working with is, together, we're over that amount, even if 20% of the people opt out, which means that supplying these programs is attractive to the suppliers, and they want to come in and bid on the program, even with 20%, even with a 20% or 30% opt-out period. What that means, though, is that for the November period, they're going to procure for 70% of the potential load, 70 of the eligible customers. But that's not going to not expected to lead to any higher prices, because NextEra is already with us. So we don't have to go and recruit a new supplier or entice a new supplier to come in. They're with us, and they're with us for the long haul to provide the services for the program. There is another tier up here, and that is at the industrial manufacturing level. So if we were to get up to the point where we are equivalent to, say, a factory, then what you start to see is a different set of suppliers offering a different set of rates for industrial customers that are out there. So we're good at the plateau that we're at. And right now, we're working with Middletown and Bristol to have their aggregation programs be reviewed. We're in the process of drafting their plans as we speak. And so we also are expecting new programs to come online here in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Kopek, did you?
Just a couple, I just wanted to say, I think North Kingstown's in that list too, right?
Yes, North Kingstown approved moving forward in December. They haven't done an RFP for a consultant yet, so I was not going to count my chickens before they hatch.
Okay. All right, I just want to say that I did attend the meeting last Wednesday. There were a pretty large number of folks there. I was pretty impressed with the turnout, and I think they came away understanding things. I mean, Jamie pretty much gave the same presentation that he's given today, but I think they understand what this is about. We got a lot of positive commentary at the end of the meeting, so that was good. I think this is just, this program is a program that gets us moving towards, better energy decisions than we've had before, because we never had any choice. So I think that's really important right there. And I think, change is difficult, and people have to, and there's a lot of people who, want to see what happens before they make decisions. One of the great things about this program, I think, is that if you see that things are working out, it's pretty easy to change, to go back, to go to something else, either way, whichever way anybody wants to go. So I think that's really, really important. And again, I think it's incredibly important to know that, those of us who use electricity, and I assume that's everybody in this room, never had that kind of choice before. So.
Thank you, Councilor Kopek. Councilor Ferrandi, did you have any comments or questions?
Just a few comments. I've heard kind of similar to what Jill said, more of the confusion end of it initially to the opt-out situation. But, I mean, it is a little complicated, there's different tiers and all of that. So it's a little bit, it's not the easiest thing to grasp for everyone. And, looking at the energy, we've always had like one big company, you know what I mean, the last 20 or 30 years. So I think people try to look into that and say, well, is the one company going to be 3 and 4, or is it going to be, 75% the next year? And it's going to be another big company. So I guess the best thing I could say, the advice would be to, give as much information as you can about the background of the types of energies and the different pricing and all that, and then people make up their own mind.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think it's a great program. I mean, I supported it from the beginning. I think there has been a lot of questions, so that's a good thing, and a lot of questions have been answered. I've seen, you know, it was a great presentation, and I know the town is going to be putting together frequently asked questions and posting that on the website, so I was going to have our town manager comment on what we're going to be doing to get more of that information out and shared.
For members of the public that don't know, the council's aware of this, that in addition to this evening's presentation by Mr. Rhodes, they did a presentation on last Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and it was live streamed, and you can watch it and hear a lot of the questions that asked and get your answers. There will also be another meeting on the 29th, Wednesday at 6 o'clock at the community center. The same thing, live streamed. You can play it back later and look at it. And then we will be we'll be working with Jamie and Mike DeLuca to add some of the new questions that have popped up in the last meeting, this meeting, and the meeting on Wednesday to update the FAQs that are on the town website so that people can check them out. And they will also have the video or to attend in person to learn more about it.
Thank you. Does anybody from the public have any questions or comments that they would like to be addressed at this time? Or Ms. Shep-Shalowitz?
Karen Shep-Shalowitz, 63 Wanda Street. I've lived here since 1987. In 1991, some of you may remember when Hurricane Bob knocked out the power for 5 days. I don't want to hear campaign promises, and I don't want to hear consultant, no offense, but consultant sort of promises and what they predict. I want to know what the strategic plan is by these electric companies when we lose power for 5 days, because it's happened more than once. Who's going to pick up the seniors to bring them to get groceries when their refrigerator fails? Who's going to bring them to get their phones recharged? There are a lot of unanswered questions. It's not just how you get your electricity, but what are these companies going to do when we run into a crisis? And I agree with Jill, which I don't often do. We no longer have reporters here for the newspapers. The seniors are in the dark about what is going on because we're not on public TV. I'd like to know why we can't be on public TV. Seniors can't come to meetings at night because they don't drive in the dark, they don't drive, they don't have anybody to take them. And like one senior I know, they fall asleep at the meeting because it's too late for them. And I know you're only here for 2 years, but I want to know, you're going to put your foot to the metal and put your foot on the accelerator button and come up with strategies and plans. Say, oh, we didn't expect a storm, so what are you going to do to service the community? And I'm worried about the community that we live in. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Jamie, I'm going to have you probably answer. Do you want to answer it? Because I know you're just supply side, so if you want to just clarify that so we can just kind of keep the questions and answers clear as we go.
Absolutely. Yes, so working with the aggregation program is just about the supply of like what's the electricity that's flowing through the wires are. And to your residents' question is that Rhode Island Energy does have an outage plan as well as storm response funds for managing both downed trees or interruptions to the power supply. They receive funding from that from every one of our bills, and we expect them to deliver on those commitments that they have. We can all have our opinions about whether they deliver on those on a regular basis or whether they fall down on the job on it. And we can use the Aquidneck Island gas example from a couple years ago as one where you go, well, I wish our utility would have done better than to leave folks in the cold. But to also know like the way that operates is really at a statewide level, and it's not really something that we're able to deal with at an individual, even at a town level, engaging with them. So I agree, we do need to be prepared for when the storm comes, although to restore outages at that time, it's always going to be up to Rhode Island Energy to do so, since it's both it's their property and it's their legal and, I would argue, moral obligation to continue to provide electricity supply.
Thank you. Dr. Alba?
Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. A couple of quick questions, and you may have already answered this in previous meetings because I have not viewed everything, but just to refresh my memory. I know that Rhode Island Energy, it's reported online that they've just decreased their prices to be, I don't think it's more than coincidence because they are facing competition now. So in regards to the savings which you projected today, is that with the newest and latest fees that were stated by Rhode Island Energy? And I hear that we're going to be locked in for 6 months. After that time, will the town be somehow, and this is a question, I guess, to our town council and town manager and powers that might be, if after the 6-month period, will we be able to see a comparison either online or if we can call up the town to see what the price comparison is at that time to see if it's worthy of us staying with your program or not. So those are some issues and concerns which I'd like you to see if you can address. Some people have questioned, why do we have to opt out? Why could we not opt in? That was basically on the Our Town Narragansett page. Some people feel that, why is the town automatically committing us to this? And then people could just opt in if they want. I know you have up there, and I made a copy of that to put on the Our Town page, 3 ways to opt out. So I think it's fairly ready, but then again, as Karen mentioned, I'm not the best with names phonetically, but as Karen mentioned, a lot of the elderly, they might get sidetracked when you get older. They might lose the information to call out. Some of them aren't on Facebook, they're not on multimedia. So by requiring people to opt out, especially the elderly, a lot of them who might not want to be in your plan might fail to do so, and say 6 months down the line, they also might not be able to do a comparison or see what the comparison is, and if your prices go up, they might end up being locked into a higher price, thinking that this is necessarily the better price. So if you can address any of those questions. And also from a historical standpoint, if you could also address, based on past practice, I know South Kingstown is exploring this as well, but based on your practice or any cities and towns which you've actually incorporated this program for X amount of time, months, years, how has it been in relationship from that 6-month grace period from the following 6 months? That means after that 6 months, in a comparison to National Grid or the competition, has your price been relatively lower, and by how much? So if you can address all those questions, it'll be appreciated. Thank you.
All right, I really appreciate those questions, and I think there's a couple great points of clarification here. So yes, so the first point was about Rhode Island Energy decreasing their prices. The answer to that is yes. Their current rate, no, today's not April yet. The current rate right now, their winter rate, is 17.7 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you stay with Rhode Island Energy, that's their winter rate, and then beginning on April 1, their summer rate is expected to be the 10.3 cents per kilowatt hour. So their price, like the Rhode Island Energy prices are dropping almost 7.5 cents between the winter and the summer. Absolutely true. There's no doubt that their rates are going down. What the program is offering is 1 more cent below that through the aggregation program, is that while Rhode Island Energy goes from 17.7 to 10.3, the aggregation program goes down again to 9.36. So that's the intention of the program, is to get below that summer rate. Okay, yes, after 6 months, you will absolutely see a comparison of prices. So right now, we are going to be initially utilizing the same channels of communication that Rhode Island Energy uses to communicate its rate changes. So once again, they change every 6 months. They use media, they use social media, they use interviews, they use their PUC filings to let folks know. So we're going to use all of those channels. We'll be doing media, traditional media, social media, but also we will be scheduling additional opportunities to come in front of the councils to let folks know that the prices are changing. Opportunities to schedule additional public hearings or community meetings in order for folks to have questions about the rate changes that are there. So in addition to what Rhode Island Energy does, you will have me showing up again after we send out the rates and say, I'm here to answer questions of what you have here. And yes, each one of our notices, and these notices are also up on the website, is a rate chart of how to compare, and we'll keep that up to date, and as soon as the new rates come out, those rates will be updated on the website as well, so folks can see it either in person, by attending one of the meetings, in print by making sure the word gets out into media, social media, so that we can communicate with folks there, and then also through the website so that we can, once again, we're trying to get every channel of communication possible to get the note out. So the other question is about why make it an opt-out? And the key piece here is that we wouldn't be able to put this, I won't move it, but the rate that's there, the 9361, that rate and that it's below last resort service only exists because it's an opt-out program. If it was an opt-in program, then NextEra would say, okay, well, we'll charge, I'm making up a number, like we will charge a number and you can try to opt people into it, but we're not gonna make any guarantees with it. Or we'll wait until you go and see and how many people commit to the program. And then we'll give you a rate basis of how many people commit to the program. But if I was going to go door to door throughout an entire community and say, we'd like you to join this program, they say, well, what's the cost? I say, I don't know yet. Well, why would I join? I don't know. It's like that gets to be the question. It's like someone won't join unless they know what the rate is. What this does is the opt-out period is really designed to balance the power between consumers and the suppliers. And it takes that sort of buying power in order for the suppliers to be committed to delivering rates that are more competitive than last resort service. And so the last question about past practice. I am going to use, once again, the Cape Light Compact as a sample because they've been working with NextEra. They are in about 18 months of working with NextEra. They built the program in a very similar way that we're doing it. That is the model, both the procurement strategy and the methodology that they've used. So for the first 6 months, they were about 1 cent below. It was Eversource there, so it was Eversource basic service. For the second 6 months, they were 1 cent below. And then for the subsequent 6 months, they've been 4 cents below. So at this point, they are 18 months in, they're a year and a half in, and they have stayed below the basic service, standard offer service, I gotta get my Massachusetts terms right, standard offer service the entire time. That type of track record is one of the reasons why we made the recommendation to work with NextEra, is that they did not just set a number and hope in the future that it will still be a good rate. They used their knowledge of the market and their procurement strategy to say, this is how we're going to deliver on a regular basis each cycle in order to deliver for customers. And then we were able to see 18 months of track records for it. We called the folks at the Cape Light Compact. We asked them, as for a reference, what's it like to work with them? How do they deal with emergencies? How do they address, how does this procurement strategy actually deliver? They were able to give the rate information. They were able to share their customer service experience. And they came up with nothing but green light and say, work with them. They've been a great partner, and they consistently deliver for the ratepayers. So based on that, that recommendation did play a critical role in us of saying, this is a strategy that should be effective for us too.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is coming from the town clerk's office. And that is a motion to approve victualling holiday theater and dance entertainment license applications for Narragansett Casino, LLC, doing business as Narragansett Casino, 11 Pier Marketplace, Narragansett, Rhode Island, subject to local and state regulations.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I think there was actually some emails prior to the meeting that were asking us to continue this from both parties. Would you like to?
They look for a comment on it, yes.
Yeah.
The attorney for the Narragansett Casino had requested that that be continued,
Okay.
as did originally Mr. Dougherty, who was going to have someone come in on his own.
Okay, yeah, that was brought to my attention before the meeting. Does anybody want to, on the council, make a motion to continue?
I'll make a motion to continue.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so motion to continue by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next on the agenda is a motion to approve a victualling and holiday license application for Queen of Cups LLC, doing business as Queen of Cups, 3 Pier Marketplace, Narragansett, Rhode Island, subject to local and state regulations.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
I just went quickly, I spoke with the applicant today, and it sounds like she has a really good business plan. She has an extensive background in coffee shops, and I know it's been a little bit of a difficult location, but it sounds like she has the enthusiasm and the whereabouts to make this a hit. So good luck to her.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next on the agenda is from the Public Works Department. It is a motion to approve the renovations to the Information Technology Department at Town Hall to be completed by Abcor Restoration Company Incorporated in the amount of $148,320. Automatic Temperature Controls Incorporated in the amount of $158,383. And EW Audit and Sons Incorporated in the amount of $21,250 for a total amount of $327,953, utilizing the General Construction Services Contract, State Master Price Agreement, and the General Electrical Services Contract.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Councilor Brandy? No.
I'm all set.
All right, anyone from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next is a motion to waive its current cost limit policy and authorize the use of the miscellaneous repair and construction services contract with George Sherman Sand and Gravel Company Incorporated to complete drainage improvements to the existing 12-inch storm drain on Ashton Lane for $25,800, Davisville Lane for $25,735, and complete replacement and repairs of the existing 6-inch drain line on South Bay Drive for $40,000 for a total amount of $91,535.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council?
So we're just here because the amount that's being requested is over what we would normally approve, right? That's the idea?
Correct.
But I think we've talked about these locations before, right? So I think, yeah, it's fine.
We have. Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next is a motion to approve a change order addendum as requested by the vendor to Article 8.1, subsection B of the miscellaneous road construction 2021 contract awarded to T. Miozzi Incorporated, now LLC, to allow for price adjustments commencing during the COVID-19 pandemic and the continuing cost of inflation.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So any discussion from the council? Or actually, Mr. Tanner, would you like to kind of just give a brief overview on that? This one's kind of a complex one here.
Sure. Miozy had a contract for the road construction. They're still in the midterm into the contract. They approached our DPW director regarding the significant increase in some materials. There was an escalator in their contract for, I believe, concrete, but not for materials. And they had approached the DPW director requesting perhaps a change order that the town could consider for a 30% increase on all materials covered under the contract. The DPW director and Bader, our engineering firm, they spoke with Miozy. They came up with a modified proposal, but ultimately this proposal is before the council as a courtesy to the vendor. He's asked for a change in the contract. We have a good working relationship with them. We have no obligation to grant this change, but as a courtesy to someone that we do business with who has asked us to make their plea to the council, we have put it on the agenda for consideration. But it's an increase in material costs, specific material costs, which are detailed in the agenda item itself. Like I said, they are under a contract now. They have said that they will abide by it, but they wanted to make a presentation to the council in support of a request to change it, and that is why it is before you now. And Mr. Jamie Roca from the vendor is here, and he would like to speak when it's time.
Okay, sure. Any comments from the council at this point?
I have a couple questions for Jim. Do you have any idea what dollar amount, 30%? I know that they're not talking about all of the supplies, but some, but what dollar amount are we talking about?
For the whole projects?
Yeah.
That would be
No way to tell?
no way to tell. And it's not a full, it's changed. The original request or
Understood.
proposal to the town was a full 30% increase, and they went through the items,
And they eliminated some.
particular items.
I saw that. Should we be looking to put this back out to bid? I mean, I understand that through COVID, cost of construction and materials has just escalated so high. I mean, should we be considering going out to bid again?
Well, currently, we do have a contract in place with the vendor. They're bound by it. Right now, there's no reason to go out to bid, but at the end of the contract, I would assume that we most likely would, and make some considerations for escalations in the future RFPs.
So
I think
the
this
next-
was unforeseen.
I was just going to say, so the contract ends in April of next year, right? It says prior to the end of the 3-year contract, April of 2024. So, because I had sort of the same question that Jill had, because what I didn't see was a total. And I was looking at the original bids, and I just wonder if the total's going to exceed, say, the highest bid that's out there. Was that kind
That's
of what you were
exactly my
getting?
question. Yes, yes.
That was the first thing I looked, I saw a lot of numbers, and I understood all the numbers, but I didn't understand the full picture. So, and you really can't provide that, right?
No. We can try to predict, but
Yeah.
it would, once they start working on the roads, things change. Even when they start working on the roads, they need different materials and whatnot. But again, this is at the request of the vendor, and it's a
Sure.
courtesy we've extended.
Another question I had was that it's my understanding that, and I don't know if it's true for these particular materials, but that a kind of across the board, prices have settled, and in some cases, gone down a little bit from from the great high from COVID or just past COVID. So I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to make a intelligent decision not having all the information that you need to do so. It would be strange to me or difficult for me to see that original $5.4 million bid go up to the $7 million bid that was the highest bid that we had. But then I don't know what the other company would have had either. This is very difficult to say sure. It's a lot of money. I think it's going to be a lot of money. I don't even know that for sure.
Very good point.
Just to add on a little bit to Deb's too, and in fairness with the other companies, I know we deal with most of these vendors as well. they might want a chance to get back into it as well. I mean, I know we have a contract, I understand that, but it's just a difficult one, so we have no idea how much money they're asking to have our taxpayers
Yeah.
relieve them with.
And to be clear, it's presented, I'm not presenting it to the council.
Understood.
Jumping up and down saying, you have to approve this. I'm presenting it to the council. It's being presented to the council as a courtesy to a vendor that we have a good relationship with, and we thought it was a reasonable request to bring it before the council for consideration. And there could be different options depending upon the outcome.
Thank you. Councilor Ferrandi, did you have any?
No, I'm all
concerns?
all set.
Okay. Okay, so, right, so the concerns were with, the other vendors too, and I did ask if the others had escalation clauses on their contracts too, and I think I was told that they didn't either when they bid on this contract, so it's not like they were bidding differently, it's just,
Not for the material items, correct?
and is that standard to not have that escalator clause on materials?
I don't know.
Oh, I know, sorry. Just kind of thinking out loud.
Steve's saying yes. Do you want to come up, Stephen? Thank you.
Didn't they say somebody from the companies?
So when this bid went out, the escalator is only for the asphalt due to COVID and whatnot. In the future, we may want to add an escalator for these other materials. But at the time that the bid went out, there was no additional escalator for anything other than asphalt. Okay?
Thank you.
Is that just typical? Is that how?
It has been the practice over the years, yes.
Okay, is there anyone from the public wishing to comment on this? Mr. Wojciechowski.
Change orders, years ago when I was working, change orders were a dilemma, because, you bid in low and you make a change order, you get more money. Normally, you have enough clauses in there to justify increases of prices based on volume, based on something. So change orders are a thing we have to scrutinize very closely. I think in this case, maybe we just give him half of what he wants. He's asked for whatever, and give him half. So we're not, but we're setting a precedent. That's the problem. When you're setting a precedent like this, I mean, once you do it once, it becomes a precedent that there will always be justification. The contractor will always come with some reason to increase the price. Well documented, too. And unless we could find that we had a little hiccup in our specification somewhere, if we made a mistake or made an error or something we didn't include, if we could justify it that way, but just to blatantly pay the change order makes me nervous. And I would, again, my Ozzy is such a special guy in town, special person that but again, you don't want to indicate that there's favoritism going on and somebody gets a favor, and that's going to go on. I'll never forget that. So I would suggest either being a lot less. I'd say I favor no at all, but if there's some justification, maybe go half. tough question. Thank you.
Right. Does anyone else from the public wish to speak on this? Mr. Mann?
Thomas Mann, 65 Oak Hill Road. And I would just like to disclose that I am a spouse of a council member because I had someone in the public accuse me of making an unethical happy birthday wish to my wife who serves as on the council. Well, ma'am, I'm disclosing it. I'm disclosing it now. I deal with contracts, and I have worked with a similar type of contract in my former employment with the government. And it is very common when you have a multi-year contract that is an indefinite quantity and indefinite delivery, where the basis is a schedule for labor rates and materials. It's very common when you put your RFPs out in bids to account for escalation that is likely to occur due to inflation or other market forces. And when you contract, it is the responsibility and the risk of the contractor to account for those risks. I would also disclose that I serve on the Finance Committee, and so I feel compelled to share this information as a member of the Finance Committee, even though the Finance Committee has not discussed this matter. I'm speaking on my own. In a case like this, where it is sticky, where there was no escalation from what has been shared in the testimony here, but there is a good relationship, I think that the relationship with the contractor and the risk to the town that if you don't award this fee, what those risks are. And if there are no risks to the town for not awarding it, then I wouldn't see a reason to break the contract and risk a relationship of future bids with other contractors who are sour grapes over something like that. So it is really important to really carefully weigh all of those risks for both parties. You also have to think about the risk for the contractor who's going to do this work, and can they be profitable? Will they succeed? Will they do a good job for the town if you don't award it? But I think you do have a lot of options here. You could do nothing and make them hold the contract, and it sounds like the contractor, from what the town manager said, would fulfill it. You could negotiate that rate, and maybe not 30%, but maybe something more reasonable, and look at inflationary indexes that have occurred since the contract was awarded and say we're willing to do that. Or even say we're willing to do this at a certain point. So if this is a multi-year or long contract, maybe it's too soon to do that, but maybe it could be the percentage they've asked for or some reasonable measure of a percentage at a certain time in the contract. You have a lot of options. I didn't plan to speak on this, but I think it's a really important issue before you, and I would ask that, I would recommend that you really think about that carefully and understand that you have a lot of options. But it is very common to have an annual increase on things, but it's also common for that to be in the contract. And if it's not in the contract, then it should be assumed that those prices are good for the entire duration of the contract. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dano.
So the initial negotiation was 30% across the board. We renegotiated we took what they initially bid for the quote versus actual cost right now and cut that in half. That's what the agreement is for right now, if you were to decide that. So it's a lot less than 30%. They're still going to lose money even if you approve it. But I think the best thing would be to bring Jess Roca up from MyOZ to answer any questions that you have. And I wouldn't recommend going back out to bid right now, because if you do that, you shut us down and we're in trouble with the bond. So I would prefer, if you didn't approve it, just continue with the contract, because they'll stand by it. But I'd like you to hear him, is why we're here.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. Jess Rocha, General Manager of MyOZ. So first off, thank you for hearing us. To Steve's point, we are just bringing this request to you guys. mainly to just try to alleviate some of the burden over the last year of dramatic cost increase that we've seen. We're not looking to break the contract. We're not looking to, fleece the town or anything like that. What we're trying to do is just, costs have gone up. When we bid this contract, some of our asphalt installation is at $71 a ton. Right now, and all of our weighted averages on the bids throughout the state this year, we're over about 115. So we're asking to get somewhere in like 97 range, just to kind of eat up some of that burden that we've faced.
Thank you. Do any council members have questions for Mr. Roca?
Did you just say that $97,000 is a number?
No, $97 per ton, excuse me, sorry.
Just a quick question. So I think in this blue sheet, it said there was an estimated loss. It was saying deflecting that projects to be a $500,000 loss for these projects. Is that a correct estimate?
Based on the current contract and the way the bids, like I said, we're just looking for some material costs. We're not looking for any labor increases or any truck increases, all the other associated incidentals that come into it. Again, it's just try to recoup some of the aggregate material, some of the steel for the pipe and stuff like that.
Anyone? Any council members have questions?
I do have a question for you. Have the materials costs settled down?
They have stabilized. They're still on the high end. For example, for the stone that goes into the asphalt, when we bid this 2 years ago, we were generally paying about $12.75 per ton. Last year, we were paying $19 per ton. We've had quotes this year up in the 25 range. So even from the 12 to the 19 is still about a 60% increase.
Any other questions? Council for Randy? Just wanted, before I speak again, I just wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to speak.
No, there's more than just the tar. I'm sure there's extra that goes into it, the gravel and all that too. So, we just ask you to do your best. If you can, shave anything else off, it'd be appreciated. I know it's been a long-time contract with the town.
Yep.
And the work, no one seems to be really upset about the work, so.
And we have a great relationship with Steve and his group, and we love working here as well. So that's why we want to try to do anything crazy for you guys.
Oh, Councilor Kopic, I think I said.
I'm still kind of hung up on what the total is going to be.
Me as well.
We have no way of knowing what that is?
It all depends on what streets and what type of work goes involved in each street.
But don't we know what streets we're doing?
I believe we may have a list. I know they started working on an estimate to try to put something together. I don't know what those are, unfortunately, right now.
And this is just to get us through the contract, which is one more year, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? We
I
can.
don't know how to vote on this one.
Mark, do you have any words of wisdom for us on this? Please have something, because this is a really difficult decision.
Well, from a legal standpoint,
Yes.
I think everyone's agreed that contractually it is what it is. The words of wisdom would be, I think when I first saw this matter, I said it has to be an equitable ask, because it would be unusual to see that kind of escalation clause. So here we are, and it turns out to be an equitable ask. I agree with, all the statements that have been made. Stanley made some very good points. On the other hand, you hate to see a good vendor be in a situation where they're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I think the answer is, for me, it would be to try to get a handle on bridging that gap, working with Steve, and trying to figure out what the number, what an equitable number is. And I don't think the town's going to be able to make them whole on that, nor do I think we should. But I think taking a measured approach and helping with that, because this was, I don't think, foreseen by anybody. No. This situation in the last 2 years is I believe, unforeseeable. So I think maybe taking a little time, working through some numbers, understanding the scope of it, and then maybe either just granting a firm number or agreeing to an aggregate price on materials.
Yeah, I agree. I think just from my perspective, I would like to see more numbers and just like more data. I think that's kind of what's difficult for, I think, all of us to kind of wrap our heads around at this point. So we could.
You want to table it?
Continue. Yeah, yeah.
We
We'll
can
could
continue it.
Yeah.
And
And maybe if we did that, what we could get is, I don't know, like a better table that tells us what, you know,
Yeah,
I
I'd
had
be happy to
trouble
work with
getting.
Steve's group to
Yeah.
use the contract numbers now based on what the streets he estimates and versus what these numbers would shake out to be, and definitely give you a comparative on that.
And then if we had some notion of, you know, what projects we were going to be doing, you know, over the next year. I mean, I really feel for you. I know that there's this
I.
issue. All of us have had some experience with this on a personal level, and, you know, I recognize that. We had this big, huge, same exact problem with our library. I mean, it's all the same. So I think that, but I just feel like I don't have enough information, and, you know, I don't want to make a wrong decision here.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate your
Thank
time and
you. Yeah.
consideration.
Somebody want
Thank you.
to make a motion?
Make a motion to continue.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we have a motion to continue, motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 4-0. So we'll get more information on that. We'll work towards that, try to get that back on the agenda, and just so that there's some clarity and some just finishing it up. So thank you. Okay, so moving along. Next, we have, it's our motions. The first motion from the town council is.
Did we vote on that?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay.
Would- Yes.
How did I miss that?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
probably voted yes and didn't realize it.
So next is a motion from the town council to direct the town manager to solicit bids for third-party vendors to collaborate with town for development of short-term rental ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so this agenda item is coming from myself and Councilor Deb Kopech, and I'm just going to give you just like the first paragraph of our summary. So as many of you know, during the last council term in which Councilor Kopech and I both served, short-term ordinance draft was developed, and a work session was scheduled to discuss the draft, which occurred pretty much close to the end of the council term. And there was no short-term rental ordinance that has been adopted as of yet. And although town staff has been working on revisions to the draft ordinance in an effort to expedite and utilize industry experts in the field, it would be beneficial to the town and key stakeholders and allow for collaboration to hire a third party to assist in the development of sound policy recommendations in short-term rental ordinance. And there are companies that do this, and they pretty much deliver already, you know, they do the, you know, the workshops and the work sessions, and they get feedback from, you know, all interested parties. So, you know, everyone gets an opinion on the matter, and they do take community feedback. And then in the end, you get an ordinance, a ready ordinance. So I'm going to let Councilor Kopech speak to this, and I'll let the other council members speak after that.
I think this is a good idea. I think it's a good idea because we are not experts on short-term rentals, and there are people out there who have had a great deal of experience across the country, locally, wherever, on, you know, what makes the most sense. And I think if we have, you know, what they will help us to do is define what our goal is. What they will do is help us to define the methodology that we can use to get to that goal, and also make sure that the goal is something that people can, at best, you know, compromise on, I guess would be the way to put that. So I think it's important that we consider doing this. In addition to this, though, I would also just suggest that we maybe try to have some relationship with the other cities and towns in Rhode Island who face this same issue. And a lot of them are coastal towns, which I think is interesting. And Jim, I'm looking at you because I was thinking that it might be a good idea for the League of Cities and Towns to actually host you know, some kind of event that folks could get together and talk about this from other councils. I think that would be a really good thing to do. But that doesn't dismiss the idea that this is something that makes some sense, at least to take a look at and try and find someone who'd be interested in helping us.
Councilor Lawler?
Yeah, sure, thanks. So obviously, the short-term rental, there's been a lot of discussion. Last term, Eva did, and I believe with Deb's help, you came up with a good basis, a good start for an ordinance. The State House is tackling this issue right now, so I'm thinking this might be a little premature. The State House met last Thursday, and they heard 4 different bills, and I was watching as it occurred, and about 10:45 at night, I see Steve, who went there to testify for the short-term rentals. So the State House is moving on this. I don't know how quickly they'll get it done. There'll maybe a vote in June. At that point in time, they will be defining what the state will do. So I think we need to wait to see what they're going to say and then move from there. We also have hired on, Mark may mention to the firm of the DeSista firm to do the 4 unrelated. I attended the hearing in front of the judge about that hearing and the 4 unrelated, and DeSisto, I spoke with them afterward, and they work with the League of Cities and Towns. That's who Steve recommended that we work with, and he is working with a good number of cities and towns right now on this very subject. So he is an expert that I believe could really work with the town to help us craft something that would meet our needs. But I think we need to wait because the state is going to dictate to us what the State House believes that those needs are. I don't know, there's 4 bills up there. I don't know how many they're going to pass, but I think this might be a little premature, and I think that we have the information to know what the town wants. Deb raises a great point. There are already some coastal communities, Newport is one of them, Westerly, and South Kingstown certainly, they are already working on things. So to meet as a group makes more sense to me than to hire yet another company out.
Hey, Councilor Ferrandi, any comments?
Thank you. And thanks, Deb and Eva, for putting this, the work product out from last year. It's actually a pretty good base. It has a lot of the basics, occupancy limits, has some of the defining terms, application fee, occupancy, minimum of off-street parking. So, these are the kind of cookie cutters. So a lot of the work, I believe, is already done in a lot of it. Now, does it need more work? It seems like it does. But I think a lot of the work has been done on it, and it's just a matter, it's going to come up to a lot of the same issues. And when I went up to the State House, as Jill said, there are 4 bills up there that they're working on, and it's not just a coastal issue. I mean, there were people from all over. The Hospitality Association is very, much involved because basically a lot of what happens is it's taking business away from the hospitality associations. They actually become event centers and that kind of thing. So a lot of the prohibitions or rules, if you will, are going to be based around quality of life issues, which are universal for the whole town, the whole state, for that matter of fact. And the issue is we're really losing a lot of this short-term housing, the housing where families would be into this short-term rental because they become money-making, operation because there are no rules. And I think we have to pay keen attention to our neighbors around us because the neighbors around us, as they pass their ordinances, they're going to define what we do. We're going to have to go by not exactly what they do, but if they're going to prohibit it and we're not, then everybody's going to flood here. We already have probably, I'd say, at least half the worst issue in the state. I believe I did some statistics. We had already 500 on the state short-term rental registration, and they only had maybe 2,100. So we have at least 25 or 30% just in one town. So I think it needs a little more work. I think this working group. I mean, I would be a part of the working group internally, and I think that we have a good base to go by. I think a lot of the issues, the other towns, I'm looking at some of the other towns, Newport has, I've done some research, they have some short-term rentals they don't allow in a residential area without a special use permit, you know, so everybody's kind of gearing it down to what they believe. But I think we have to pay keen attention to our neighbors and what they're doing. And if, you know, if we're not as strict, or less rules, then we're going to be inundated. And I don't know how long this was going to take. So I'm in favor of holding off a little bit. There may be some good ideas with this other plan.
So this,
I'm
I
not
just want to
sure, you know.
clarify, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Steve. So this is a motion we're just getting bids, and then you get the package of what these companies would offer and a timeline. It would always come back to the council for us to say yes or no. And I have had conversations with our town manager regarding outsourcing something like this, or not necessarily outsourcing, because we're working collaboratively together with everybody. And there is grant funding that would be available, so it's not like we would be paying from the town coffers, most likely, because that was being put in for as one of the grants. Correct, Mr. Tierney, is that?
That's correct. We actually were meeting tomorrow to fine-tune some of them, and they're due by the end of this month.
Yeah, so again, this isn't for us to, it's just moving forward. It's keeping the ball rolling. It's not like, you know, if these bids go out and it's you know, it's an RFP, basically, you're putting what you want in the proposal and you're getting it back, and then you're getting different vendors bidding, and there's pricing, obviously, that's going to be attached, and you review the bids or the proposals, and then it comes back to the council for the council to decide whether they want to move forward with something like this or not. I mean, honestly, like we've already done a lot of the work, but it's having, you know, being able to streamline this, and I think it is help for the staff, and it's help for, you know, taking that burden off and making it, you know, move forward. Those are my thoughts on it, and that's why I thought this was a good idea to put this forward. It's not saying that we're not going to have a say, because the town and all interested stakeholders are going to have a say in this, and it's more like having somebody coordinate all this, and again, taking the burden off departments and staff, and, you know, and the council itself. So I'm not sure if that changes anyone's mind, but anyone from the public wishing to comment on this? I see Mr. Lynch out there.
Dennis Lynch, 22 Central Street. So I think the key word needs to be urgency here. So we've had a workshop before. Steve is absolutely right. The two major locations of short-term rentals are Newport and Narragansett. Those are the two out of 39 towns and cities. And Newport already has, if you go to their website, has a short-term rental officer on staff. So we are way behind. And it just doesn't feel that waiting on the state, given the pace with which we know the state typically gets business done, I think that is not in our best interest. I think we should move forward with pace. I think if this approach tonight can move things along quickly, because I'm thinking that everyone up at the council table understands that time is a wasting on this, on 3 student, on other very important town issues, that you have such a short time to get your hands around. So I think this is a terrific way of accelerating the process. The bills, as I read them from the state, were not about prohibiting towns, but saying the town will have the right to do this, a town will have the right to do that. And I think those bills are probably never going to see the light of day anyway, as they move or get frozen in the legislative process. So big supporter of anything that speeds the process, and it sounds like this could. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before we move on, I just want to make sure that everybody understands the motion. So any comments made about this motion is to either support or oppose moving forward with directing the town manager to solicit bids for third-party vendors. It's not whether somebody agrees with short-term rentals or not. So I just want to make that clear for anybody that's going to be coming up to speak. So if anybody has any comments or if anyone wants to say they approve or actually do not approve of moving forward with this motion to direct the town manager. Okay, I don't know your name, I'm sorry.
Good evening. Joe Volpe, 19 Harbor Island Road. I am in total support of this. First of all, I just want to backtrack a little. Recently, I saw that there was a position put in the building inspector's office to the nature of a rental compliance officer. I saw that. I saw their job duties, and I think that it's going to be something that's going to help the building inspector to streamline things and handle any complaints, and obviously improve the quality of your life. It's one of the things I recommended at the work session, and I was very happy to see it. So I think that's something that's going to be good for the town. But I too was up at the State House, and I didn't feel that it was the best environment to testify because there are 39 different cities and towns. I think Councilman Ferrandi has mentioned it a couple times. And Narragansett's very unique. And I think we need to come up with an ordinance that is unique to Narragansett. I can't compare us to Pawtucket or Central Falls and, compare the short-term rental situation with those cities and towns. The bottom line is you have the Hatfields and the McCoys here on this, right? And whether you're on one side or the other, I think the most important thing is to get the data and get the information, right? Like Madam President said, we don't have all the information. You're not equipped to handle all this. So all the help you can get from a professional to come up with something that's fair and balanced is going to be the best course of action. I don't see balance. I see people on this end saying, companies are coming in here and buying up all the properties and, cutting out affordable housing. And then we see the other side where people are saying they don't want any regulation, right? I'm a fan of regulation. I think we need it, but we need to realize that short-term rentals and affordable housing and year-round housing are all things the town needs. I struggle with the cause and effect. If we limit one thing, is that really going to increase affordable housing? And I think that's what this company is going to be able to do. It's going to be able to take political opinions out of it. If people are unaware of the data, they're going to bring the data. And if people are unwilling to see the big picture, it's going to make them see the big picture, whether they like it or not. I'll wrap this up quickly. We had mentioned a committee at the after the work session, and I think a committee environment is the best course of action because you're going to get opinions from both sides. And the last thing I'll say is, when we're talking about the uniqueness of Narragansett, I went for a run the other day, and it says shop, dine, and stay on all the lampposts and even at the center of the Rotary. Where are the people going to stay is something we have to think about. I understand that affordable housing is an issue. I understand short-term rentals are part of the problem. I understand that we need to kind of work both ends of this. But we also have to understand that Narragansett is unique, that we don't have a lot of options of where people are going to stay. So we have to take that into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Friday?
Good evening, Rupert Friday, 113 Montauk Road. I would like to reiterate what Mr. Lynch said. I agree with him. I think that we shouldn't delay. We should move forward with an ordinance preparation. I was at the State House. I submitted written testimony on all 4 of the bills, and I don't think that any of those bills are really going to influence the crafting of an ordinance for Narragansett. So I think it's good to move forward with an ordinance. I don't think it makes sense to delay. So, thank you.
I'm sorry, Dr. Alba.
Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. I think everyone in the council brought up some outstanding ideas. I think Councilwoman Kopech, I think that was an outstanding suggestion to look at other towns that have similar demographics as Narragansett. Sure, we might not maybe be able to do a comparison with Central Falls, or an urban city, but we can look at Newport and other seaside villages. So I think that's food for thought. You know, and I understand some people feel time is of the essence, but then again, if there has been success by other towns that are comparable in demographics to Narragansett, and they've had a successful program and implemented it successfully, then maybe we should explore that, okay? And I don't know if all of you can collectively maybe reach out to the state and ask them what our situation is here and say, we understand that there's going to be pending proposals for short-term rentals. What is the timeline? Because we don't want to wait forever. So Councilwoman Lawler brought some outstanding points too, that, you know, if we hire a company, I know this is just a request, you know, that I know, Council President, this is a request, to exploratory, but, you know, and some people are saying, well, this might get caught up, you know, and I'm familiar with bureaucracy through Galilee, but the reality is, you know, I know if all of you can reach out to maybe our senators, Senator DeMario, and ask her, you know, this is pressing, you know, what is the timeline? What is the upcoming timeline? So these are just things which we should consider. We don't want to wait forever, obviously, but on the other hand, do we want to reinvent the wheel? And if we have an RFP, if we do have the RFP request, and we get these proposals, and we got several of them that are comparable, well, I think, like I said, reaching out to other towns, maybe we could be proactive, reaching out to other cities and towns that have similar demographics to Narragansett and see what's working there, see who they hired out, see if they have, how they went about, you know, enforcement. That's very important too, enforcement. These are all just some considerations that I think we should all look into. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am.
I'm Mary Ann Cronley, 82 Harbor Island Road, and I would like to support the motion to collaborate with the town for development of a third-party vendor. And I'm glad that a grant was sought, and I'm pretty sure that if the money is not used for this purpose, the grant will go away. So I wish you would move forward with soliciting, what does it say? Third-party vendor to collaborate with the town for development of short-term rental ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wojciechowski, has your hand up?
Again, I'll go liberty for all, liberty for all. I have a property, and it appears that you want to start to government regulate it, take away some of my liberties of my property. Short-term rental, long-term rental, no rent, I don't know. What's a short term? Is it 1 hour, 2 hours, 2 days? I don't know. Whatever it is, it looks like government wants to take away some of my rights of what I can do. And no, I'm going to fight that till the end. I don't want government to start. If I allow government to start to take away my rights, they will continue to take away my rights on my property. Short-term rental. I think the real problem is booze. People are going to get wild and drunk or whatever. We need to regulate the booze industry, have a cop and a bouncer at every facility that gives booze out. The booze is a problem, not the rentals. It's not the rentals. It's the people who get too wild after they go out there and have a party somewhere. So let's regulate them if you want to. Regulate them businesses, because they're drugging up people to cause trouble as neighbors. So if you're going to do something, fight the problem. The noise, the disturbances, drunk driving. That's where you should be. Not take away my rights. Not only you take away my rights, it's going to cost me money now. Not only do you take my rights, you charge me. I'm sure it's going to cost money. Right now, I was looking here at the rental registration revenue, $300,000. I don't understand how that. I don't know how that goes, but you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I don't know how many offenses that we have that are worth paying $300,000 a year. I'm sure the police have stopped all the.
Thank you.
They've stopped all the. They've got all the stickers squared
Thank you.
away.
Mr. Wojciechowski.
All I can say is we should not go down a road of additional government interference regulation with my property rights. At least let's see what the state does, because they'll investigate the legal implications. Can we take liberty away? Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shepshalowitz.
Karen Shepshalowitz, 63 Wanda Street. As a point of order, Mr. Mann should have identified himself as your husband, because I understand he's applied for a town manager's job. Maybe that's wrong information.
That's definitely wrong, and this is, there's no
Well,
point of
that's
order
a
here.
rumor
Thank
going
you.
around,
It's not.
and
It's
in
not
Patriots
true.
Place, we should know about such things. I also have a different spin on,
Ms. Shepshalowitz, please be seated. This is not a point of order.
well, it's a point of order concerning, he went after me in the middle of his
He did not.
talk. So Eva, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Will the town sergeant please help? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so as far as the rental situation goes, I have a different spin on it. There's a lot of talk about 2 to 3.
This is a motion
And
on directing the
long and
town
short-
manager to solicit bids. This is not about a commentary on 2-3 students.
Well, to me, it's part of the
It's
same
not.
issue.
This is the motion to direct the town manager. So if you do not have, you can either approve or not approve of this motion. It's not a discussion on whether you agree with
To me,
it.
it's an issue. If Stanley can talk about liberty, I can talk about families not being able to get back into town because they can't afford to live here.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to comment?
I normally don't chime in on a council matter, and this isn't to influence anyone's vote at all. Just a few facts that I've noticed as I've looked at this that are just facts with no opinion. Everyone agrees that there's a flurry of bills in the State House involving ADUs, short-term rentals, rental application fees, and the legislative session ends in June. And none of us can predict how it's going to turn out. But most certainly, some end up in committee, they just die. This agenda item, as it is presented, read through it several times, has no dollar cost as it's proposed. It's a staff work to put it out. And there would be no cost until such time as quotes come in. Those quotes would be presented to the council for consideration. And the other item was that we are submitting, it'll be submitted next week, a grant application for assistance in authoring and updating and creating ordinance changes, and including zoning and short-term rental, because it's specifically mentioned in the grant application that amending and writing assistance in amending zoning regulations is considered one of the purposes of the grant. Doesn't specifically say short-term rental, but it does reference that one of the situations where it's applicable would be for authoring ordinances or assistance in them with zoning matters. Those are just bullet points that I don't know if the public's aware of that, or, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tierney. Any other comments from the council?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. In no way am I saying that we shouldn't act on this now. I absolutely want us to act on this now. I would love for our zoning attorney and the firm of DeSisto to start on the ordinance that has been submitted with this. That was a really good first start. As far as having another study, I don't think we need another study. We don't have time for another study. We have an RFP goes out, people apply, and then the study happens. I'm in favor of the town acting right now and taking a look at the ordinance as written here and fine-tuning it and moving. And then we'd like to see what happens with the state, because the state may say something that's going to knock everything down. But I am not in favor of waiting. I want to move on this right now, and I think that's what the town wants.
Councilor Kopech?
Yeah, this isn't a study. This is an opportunity to use, experienced individuals to help us, or experienced organizations to help us, work our way through this process based on what we've already put together, but also, making certain that what we have put together makes logical sense in a lot of different ways. We're not experts at this. And so I think that's the objective here. We're not studying anything. We're coming up with a modification to the ordinance that we created with support from people who know more about it than we do.
Councilor Ferrandi, any final thoughts?
I think we're really all on the same page. And Mr. Volpe, if that was his name, I don't know if he's here or not, he basically said it the best. It's the Hatfields and the McCoys. And I think what this town is looking for right now is someone to come in, the white and shining armor consultant, whoever it is, package everything up, give us a nice bow of an ordinance to say, here's your magic bullet document. And it's not that easy to do that. And that's been the issue. We haven't been able to do the hard work internally and with our own solicitors and, getting expertise, visiting Newport, finding what they're doing, what works for them, what works for us. And I know we're all hoping that this consultant might be able to do that. If we get grant money, all the better. But all of a sudden now, when we kind of got a work product. So I'm leery that if we go forward with this, it's going to kind of stop what we've got so far. And, I wish it would happen too. Someone could put a nice bow on it, bring it to the town and say we wouldn't have to. But the stakeholders are still going to be there. You're still going to have the same battle. It is like the Hatfields and McCoys. So, I think the town has to put a stand. The other towns are doing it. So I think we should continue on this path. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so I'll just give some final thoughts. I actually respectfully disagree with Councilors Lawler and Councilor Ferrandi. This is in addition to us continuing to work on the short-term rental. We have done a lot of work, as you've mentioned, and there's a lot of good content to there. We have support. We've had the town manager apply for grants. The staff have applied for grants. I'm sure it's like a welcome opportunity for the staff to kind of decrease the burden from their workload for this, because this is a big lift. This is one of the most important things that we're doing on this council term, and we need to keep moving it forward. And this is part of the process to move it forward, because we're going to be working. We will have, subcommittees. I would love for you to be part of that. But we also would get a timeline, a definitive timeline, where we would have the deliverables. This week we would do that, or within this many weeks. So you get a concrete timeline. So you can say, like, gee, we'll be implementing this by, this date, and we'll have something ready to go, and we'll have all these things in place. Not like, it is difficult because Deb and I did do the short-term rental. We were drafting it. It's a very complex issue, and we had to bring that draft to the work session, and it was, gosh, we were like persecuted, but it was just presenting something, like a framework, and it wasn't the final product. And I just think there are a lot of companies that do this for a living, and they're experts, and it takes kind of the heat off everyone. And it's like we just sit back, we're part of the process, we work on it collaboratively. It's all about collaboration and getting something done. So obviously we haven't seen anything moving forward on the short-term rental on the agendas, and people have been getting antsy. We actually had changes to who we have as solicitor, and now we have somebody here, and that we know that we're going to be working with. So we need to just move this forward, in my opinion, so that we can get this done in this council term, because it is a big lift. It's a lot of work. We need the more eyes on this, the more hands on this, the more people involved, kind of shepherding this through is going to make it happen. And it's not that I don't have faith in our staff. It's not that I don't have faith in this council. I just think, again, there's so many issues we're dealing with. We're dealing with a lot of housing issues, and there's a lot of other things that we could better utilize some of that time that's going to be freed up from outsourcing this and from getting a third-party vendor. And again, circling back, we don't have to use them. This is going to go out to bid. This is a motion to see what they're going to come back with. And there may be different vendors that come back with different timelines or what they're going to offer. I mean, obviously, if it's an RFP, we're going to have specific asks. And in the end, we want an ordinance. We want an ordinance that, the word here is an adoption-ready short-term rental ordinance. So we want it to come to the council, and we want to be able to adopt that ordinance. So those are my final words, and I know we may not agree, but that's kind of my rationale, and that's where I stand on this agenda item. So if there are no final comments, I guess.
One more.
Yeah, sure.
I think you're more than half to three-quarters of the way there with the document you have with a little bit of tweaking. That's my issue. And I think, we're, like I said before, we're waiting for someone. We're afraid what we're going to look like. Someone else is going to do the lifting. It's still going to be up to us here to face all the music when the Hatfields and McCoys come. We're not going to get this out of the situation. And, maybe we dress it up a little bit, but there's some people on one side that want reform, other people don't want any change at all. And you've seen all the other communities and what they've done and how they've wrestled with. They've come up with something.
Well, some have.
I just don't want it to delay it.
Yeah, I just don't think this, I think this is a win-win. I think putting this forward is a win-win because, like I said, we are going to work on it, and this is just going to just work with the process. It's not going to impede or prevent the process from moving forward. It's just going to make it more streamlined. And again, it's there are a lot of, so if you read the blue sheet, there's a lot of asks from this blue sheet. It's like, there's background reports, there's, I've actually watched, I've attended the not the work sessions, but they've had,
which one are you talking about?
Yeah, so, well, we've actually, yeah. So,
it actually was a work session.
Yeah, so, but anyway, so that's kind of where this evolved from, was the fact that there are companies that do this, and,
Right. Oh, we have
there's surveys, like, who's going to do the surveys here? Who's going to, we want data, we want information, we want feedback. And, when you're putting that onus on our town staff, that takes a lot of time.
Yep.
There's a lot of hours. And I always think of, from the perspective of, is this an efficient use of time, or can we have somebody, can we delegate that task to somebody? It's not saying that, again, that our town staff can't do it. It's more of delegating these tasks. And again, that makes it a faster process. And that's how I've approached this. So again, that's my rationale.
Well, we might have to disagree on it, because I just think that this is the most important issue facing the town, and what better people to approach it than our solicitors who know our unique situation. And the good news is we all agree that the short-term rentals problem needs to be tackled. We're just disagreeing on the process for this. So.
Okay, so I guess we've kind of talked it out. So now we'll just, we'll have a vote. So this, again, because we've talked about this for a while, this is a motion to direct the town manager to solicit bids for third-party vendors to collaborate with the town for development of a short-term rental ordinance. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion fails 2-2. Okay, next agenda item is from the Town Council. It's a motion to direct the town manager to locate potential areas in the town for a dog park and provide estimated costs for dog park.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this is coming from myself and Councilor Kopek. I get a lot of questions about dog parks in the community. Currently, we do not have a dog park in Narragansett. So again, this is just seeing if there's an opportunity for us to have a dog park in town. And we would be looking for grant funding for sources, as well as funding sources if it did move forward as a fundraiser. And again, this is just directing the town manager, and this would come back with us with options. Do I have any discussion from the council? Councilor Kopek?
So just a couple of things I want to say. I have had dogs most of my adult life. I've been to a dog park, but not with my dog. So, but I do know, I did a little research of my own and took a look at I didn't physically look at it, but I looked at it online, the dog park that is in South Kingstown, which is a kind of premier dog park. It's really well done. I do have some concern that we may not be able to find space for this in Narragansett, but who knows? But I also think that if we're going to do this, we have to consider, dog parks that work and dog parks that don't work, and do the right, and do it right if we're going to do it, because there are some that just wreak havoc in the areas that they're in. They sometimes smell bad. They sometimes have, dog fights. So we need to make sure that we understand how this will work and how it would work well. And we probably also need to make sure that, Eva says that, there's people that have asked her for that. And I sort of think that if we did have a dog park, maybe there would be fewer dogs on the beach. And I know there's some people who would appreciate that. So it's worth taking a look at. I definitely believe it's worth taking a look at.
Any other?
I don't have people asking me, maybe because I'm a cat person, people don't ask me about dog parks, but the Parks and Rec director is here. Michelle, for Parks and Recreation?
Actually, well,
Oh, I'm
sorry. Yeah, actually I've been
Jim.
working with, so I would like Mr. Tierney to address this.
We have been looking into, when Michelle and I first became aware of the agenda item, we already started looking around. I don't want to tip my cards about locations that we've come up with so far, but we have come up with a couple of locations. We're going to continue to look. I will be discussing with Smithfield, the town manager, this week. They just went through a process. That's probably one of the newest ones. They come up and they'll walk us through all the processes they had to get it and any hurdles they face. But this agenda item is simply to propose some locations that are available that could be suitable for such a park. And we were on it.
All set? Okay. Councilor Ferrandi?
No, thank you, Eva. Yeah, I guess it's the devil's in the details, right? So it's a lot about the diligence. Where can we have it? Do we have the room? You got fencing, liability, all that. So I think we should probably just kind of, tread slowly with it. No, some people might want a dog park. They love one right next to their house. Some other people won't. So it's got to be in the perfect, appropriately spotted place. So it's my comments. Tread lightly with it.
This is it's a typical research project that's assigned to myself and staff, and we'll take everything into consideration, and we'll come back to the council with some ideas.
Correct. So anything it's just finding out first and foremost, the first step is finding out if there's any areas and whether, they obviously have to be probably vetted. And so that's just kind of moving the ball forward for an initiative like this. Anyone from the public? Dr. Alba.
Yes, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. I love dogs. I also realize we do have one in close proximity. I'm an educator. I'm always thinking about, economies of scale and whatnot. And I'm sure there are probably some dog owners in Narragansett who go to South Kingstown because it's a hop, skip, and a jump from Narragansett. And I've done a little research, as Deb has done, and not all of them are successful, and some of them could be problematic. We do have a unique situation in Narragansett, too. We have the beautiful Ocean Road. We have the beautiful beach. So I'm saying to myself, if I have a dog, I don't have a dog, but if I had a dog, would I rather have that dog walk down Narragansett Beach with me, or Ocean Road, or go in a dog park where they might be inundated with other dogs? There might be a lot more fecal matter where people might not pick up their poop. So I would much rather have my dog walk along Ocean Road or along the Narragansett Beach because we've got such beautiful, it's so gorgeous out there. So,
thank you.
Fine if you want to do an exploratory, examination to see if this will work. But as Councilman Ferrandi mentioned too, and I'm sure our town manager is going to do due diligence, as will Michelle Kershaw, Director of Parks and Recreation, that, if we look into this, it's not going to infringe or be next to a neighborhood, because I personally wouldn't want it next to abutting my property, so to speak, for many reasons. But sure, if it's exploratory and we just look into it, and then we can have a public session where people can speak and voice their concerns one way or another, I think that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. And the point of a dog park is so they can be off leash. So the dogs, because we have a leash law in Narragansett. Anyone else from the public wishing to comment? Anyone else from the council? Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 4-0. Next up on the council agenda is from the town solicitor. It is a motion to receive and make a determination on the validity of a voter initiative to amend the town charter to establish procedures whereby all candidates for town council and school committee would be elected on a partisan basis, that is by placing a party designation on the ballot next to the name of any candidate. Mr. Davis, would you like to comment on this one?
Should we vote on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll move the motion.
Sorry.
Second?
Thank you.
Thank you. On February 21st, 2023, Winters Hames submitted a voter initiative petition pursuant to Article 1, Chapter 4, Section 6 of the Town Charter entitled Enactment and Repeal, which is the process by which, the only process in which one can change an ordinance that was adopted via an initiative petition, voter initiative petition. So this petition seeks to reverse the previously approved voter initiative by modifying Articles 2-1-1, 4-1-1, 4-1-2, and 9-1-1. Basically, those sections address the number, term, and selection with regard to elections and candidates, election law and conditions, board of canvassers, and membership. And the petition, if approved, would establish procedures whereby all candidates for the town council and school committee in the town of Narragansett would be elected on a partisan basis, that is, by placing a party mark or designation on the ballot next to the name of any candidate. So After reviewing the town charter, federal and state constitutions, and federal and state law, it is my legal opinion that the petition is valid, and I would suggest that you find the petition valid.
Thank you. Any discussion from the council?
I think the only thing I want to say is I will go with Mark's opinion, but Mr. Hames, I'm hoping that you don't go through with this. Our country is in a state right now where we don't need further division. We don't need further labeling. We need to work together. And certainly in a town such as Narragansett, I don't believe that there's any need to say someone's a Democrat, someone's unaffiliated. It's who are the people that are going to get the business done for the town in the manner you like. And please don't divide us anymore.
Yeah.
Councilor Frandy.
Thank you, Eva. I mean, I guess there was a reason why we went away from this years ago. It doesn't really preclude anyone from actually taking in, campaign contributions from the Democratic Party. It's just once they're on the ballot, there's no Democrat or Republican, it's just names. So, and that's all it does. So I think it's working well the way it is now, and I think maybe people can look beyond maybe if it's Democrat or Republican. It may be more interest-based or opinions-based or values-based or the problems in the town based. People work on more than that than just whether they're Democrat or Republican. So that's the only thing I can say about it. But
Yeah, Councilor
know it's a
Frandy, I just want to
simple petition.
clarify. So this motion is just to receive and make a determination. So so it goes to our town solicitor to make the determination whether it's valid or not. It's not really discussing what our thoughts are about it, but it's just, he's determined that it's valid, so we're going to be, acting on that, that's all. And
I realize
it is
that.
valid, yeah. Councilor Kopech, did you have any comments on this, or?
Well, I don't think that we should be talking about the content here. We should just be talking about what our requirement is. And the requirement is that if the solicitor says that this is valid, then we have to vote for it.
Yep, so if it is so, we have to amend this motion. Does somebody want to make a motion to amend it, to accept this?
Sure, I'd like to make the motion to amend to accept as valid.
I'm sorry, to what?
Do you have a
To accept
second?
as valid.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So we have an amendment to accept the motion as valid. It's motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. So the motion is to accept. We're going back to the main motion, and it's we need to vote on that. And we're going to vote on the amendment, which is to accept as valid. All in favor?
Wait. We didn't let any public comment.
We're just determining
saying
it's
that-
valid. Okay, Mr. Lynch.
But that's what they have to address, period.
Okay, Mr. Lynch, sorry, I didn't see you.
Dennis Lynch, 22 Central Street. I understand no commentary on the content of the referendum, although I agree with a lot of the remarks up there, but kind of an arcane process for a resident. So by you accepting valid, could you just indicate what are the next steps mechanically? Where does it go from here? What's the timing before it gets in front of the actual voter? Is there going to be a special election for it? And also, I do have a question. As part of validity or validation, does that mean that all the requisite signatures have been obtained? Just kind of getting more information and background on the activity.
I'm going to have our assistant.
I don't
town
know
clerk.
all the timelines off the top of my head, but this would allow Winters Hames to then solicit signatures. So no, signatures have not been obtained.
Okay.
This starts the process.
Okay, then everything else is somewhat less certain, since the signatures have not been.
Correct.
Yes, and then there wouldn't be a special election. It would go on the next scheduled election, on the
Okay.
next scheduled ballot.
Thank you.
Dr. Alba?
Dr. Al Albert, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. So Win Hames, he's the gentleman who proposed the sale of items, and then it was, I guess, erroneously placed, and somehow it got put on the ballot, and then we couldn't sell our items. I know we voted, okay,
Dr. Albert, this is the
right.
agenda, yeah.
All right, so
Valid.
based on this situation, I think Councilman Ferrandy, Councilwoman Lawler, I thought they brought up very valid points. Do we allow this to go through? Can anyone just put any kind of initiative up, regardless of how caustic it might cost the town down the road? I mean, we can have someone put the proposal, and it might get approved, but it could cause undue hardship to the Oba town. We already see the division. We've seen the division. Sadly, you know, we got to try for uniformity. So my concern is, sure, someone could put a proposal up there, and we got to approve, should we get signatures or not signatures? But as it was stated, we need uniformity in this town. We need more division. So on that note, I would like you guys to consider that on your vote. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is just on the validity of it, and it was determined by our town solicitor that it is a valid initiative.
Very good. Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else from the public? Okay, so I think we accepted it as a valid. It was 4-0. Okay, so we have to go back to the original motion, which is, we're going to, just to clarify, we're accepting the main motion as amended, just to make it valid. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Next up is is the last item on the agenda, which is also from the town solicitor, and it is a motion to receive and make a determination on the validity of a voter initiative to amend the town charter to establish that the town is only able to sell real property with an appraised value of $500,000 or more only with voter approval, but would be able to sell any property with a lesser value without voter approval.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, actually, I'll go to our town solicitor, Mr. Davis.
So this is similar to the last one on the subject of form. On February 21st, 2023, Winters Hames submitted a voter initiative petition pursuant to Article 1, Chapter 4, Section 16 of the town charter. Again, looking to modify something that had been previously adopted via the voter initiative petition process. In this particular case, Mr. Hames seeks to modify Section 1-3-1, which is powers of the town. And I'm not going to go into it because it's available for everyone to read, but the last petition put restrictions on the town council's ability to sell any property without voter approval. So every 2 years, I think we saw it on this particular ballot, the voters would have to approve the sale of any town property. This petition would seek to modify that by, I'm just going to summarize what it says here, but it's going to allow, if adopted, would allow the town to sell real property with an appraised value of less than $500,000 and would restrict anything more than $500,000 to that's only been approved by voter approval on the ballot, as is now the case, but there would be a threshold of $500,000, and would enable the town to sell any property with a lesser value without voter approval. So it's making it more workable, because right now the town can't sell anything without voter approval. This gives the town the ability to sell property that's got an appraised value of less than $500,000 without voter approval. So after reviewing the town charter, federal and state constitution, federal and state law, it's my opinion that this petition is valid and should be adopted as such.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? Okay, so it is valid, so We just need a motion to change the motion.
A motion to amend to accept as valid.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Okay, so now it's, we're going back to the original motion. We're going to accept the main motion as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Next is a motion
Do you have a
to
first and
adjourn.
a second on that, Eva, please?
Sorry, it was Counselor Lawler, seconded by Counselor Kopek. Okay, lastly, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. We are adjourned for the night.
Aye.
Good night. Oh, all in favor? Aye.
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 Too late, we just adjourned.